Southern California, yeah.
Born and raised our DNA. Laugh and cry to what we say. We hit you with that wordplay.
4053.
What episode are we on? D, they feeling like they be zombies, all dressed in Abercrombie.
SoCal DNA coming in live. 8 o'clock on a Wednesday night. COVID got you sitting inside. Why not sip one and free your mind?
Cheap thrills, popping pills, stack cash, spend it fast.
Listen to all of Don's lies as Arjun act like he's surprised.
And here we are with another episode of the SoCal DNA. Hey man, I don't know about you, but it feels like we're finally rounding the corner of this whole election thing, man. It's kind of crazy. What do you think?
I think the battle will be far from over, but it is very interesting to see so far what has happened. Biggest story in the whole world. It's not just the United States that cares about this. Every single country, especially the UK, especially our friends across the pond, they're very much invested in what's about to happen here.
You know, I have a feeling like you know more about how invested they are than the actual U.S. population.
No, that is a very likely statement because if you look at my YouTube subscriptions, you wouldn't be surprised. The news channels that I listen to are actually BBC News and Sky News. So like the only two are
Sky
from,
One. Sky One. It's always Sky One. Are they still on Channel One?
Well, Sky has like many different channels. I think.
Oh
I think
my God.
Sky.
Okay.
Sky Sports is for like soccer and everything.
Sure.
I don't have that subscription, but
You know-
Sky News is just 24/7 free. They just kind of broadcast it for everybody. So
Dude, and I think, what do you call it? Since you are into, I guess like in the past life you lived in Europe or whatever, but since you are into that genre of people, why don't you say the next sport we tackle is I don't know, one of those like Champions League or something of that sort. Get into some football. How about that? We'll pick teams, and we gotta trail them next roundabout.
that sounds like a lot of work.
No, it's soccer. Or sorry. Excuse my
Yeah,
English.
come on,
Wrong
man.
English.
It's not soccer.
It's-
Nobody calls it soccer.
Football. The
That's right.
football. I think we should.
I'll tell you a brief story. So, my one soccer experience, or not soccer, football.
There it is. Look at
Excuse me. I'm messing up like the D too. I'm a little slippery today. Like the D. Pew pew pew. So, in the December of 2019, was it? I think so. I had gone to Europe, and as part of the London leg, the very first thing I did that night was actually go to a Arsenal FC game at Emirates Stadium.
Ooh.
And this was Arsenal versus, I want to say, Manchester City. Not Manchester United, but
Sure,
Manchester City.
we can't afford that. Come on.
Yeah, no, seriously, I couldn't afford that. And it was just, very circumstantial. It just so happened that, we could catch the second half of the game if we take this underground train all the way there. And we did. And it was interesting for me as a non-fan, right? Not even a casual fan, as a non-fan, to just experience what other people dream about, all their lives. Going to an Arsenal game, seeing players like Ozil and Adebayo. It's not Adebayo. It's not Bam Adebayo. But there's some guy with like a long last name starts with A. It's not Antetokounmpo either. But the people, the Arsenal fans know what I'm talking about, I hope. But yeah, like
Well,
it
doesn't
was
even play there anymore.
Maybe he doesn't play there. Maybe he's on the Clippers now. Who knows? The Clippers need a lot of help. They need a lot of help. But no, what I realized was, and this may kind of disappoint you, I care like so little about the game of football.
Hurts.
I know it hurts, but listen, I care so little that when I see the players on the field, they just seem like regular people to me. It's not even like I'm astounded or amazed by what they're doing. And I see the pictures, the promotional posters, and I did a tour as well of the stadium later on during that trip. And it was just like, okay, this is cool. I guess kids enjoy this. Just like walking around, seeing all the trophies and like, oh, this is where the manager sits. Oh, this is the field. This is that. I could tell this meant a lot to a lot of different people, including my friend. But for me personally, it was like, I just don't care for it. It just does nothing for me. And I imagine at that moment, oh, this is what a lot of people feel like when it comes to basketball. when it comes to sports that I do care about. For me and you, Don, we care the world about the Lakers. We are so happy that they won.
Mm-hmm.
And, we couldn't care less about the Clippers. We hate them, right? They're
Well,
awful.
we
would never take pictures. We would never take pictures in a Clippers jersey. We would never do that.
Go look at his Facebook.
But,
Go look at his Facebook.
Oh, no. It's gone. It's hidden now. It's hidden. No, I'm kidding. It's probably up there. You can fuck around there. But, yeah, I just realized at that moment that this is a microcosm of how other people feel about other sports, right?
Sure.
Me not caring about soccer or football in the moment, it's just like anybody else when I talk about basketball to them. Maybe they're not interested. Maybe they were never interested. And I get it. And it really comes down to the fact that sports is a diversion for most people. It's not like you and I are playing regularly, although that might be fun. If we somehow, find a league, for like very out of shape people that can't dunk or even do layups, me and you, we'd be killing that.
Oh,
shit.
hell yeah, man.
For sure. Before and after our sumo classes, we'll
Yeah.
just go
Proper
to,
training. Proper
training. That's right. What's the phrase you like to use?
Bulking season every season, man.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But yeah, man. I mean, look, I'll be honest with you. I'll level with you. I have respect for the players. I know it's very difficult, and I know they get paid handsomely well. There's a lot of money over there too. Yep. I just don't find myself following it on a regular basis because I gave up on football, on American football, and American football
quite easily, by the way.
I wouldn't say that, man. I've been, I was following American football for several years, especially for fantasy football reasons, but giving it up took some time, man. It was like a year or two that I was thinking about it. Like, it ain't for me. I'm not winning any money with this. It's kind of a waste of my time. And I pulled the trigger this month, or not this month, but this season. And I don't regret it. I'm not looking back at all. And I'm happy. I'm good without football in my life. Let's put it that way. Sure. Do I need to replace the American football with the European football? I don't think so. I really don't think so. So sorry to disappoint you, Don, but no, we won't be covering.
Hey, well, but sumo still has a chance.
I think sumo only has a chance because it's such a novelty thing. Like it's so unique that there's really nothing else like it. And if you wanna put a little Skrilla, if you wanna put a little money down on some of these matches with Inoue or what is it? Enho.
Come on, man.
My bad. Your fave, the little guy.
Yeah, man.
Little guy.
Come on.
I'd be down to kind of bet on these individual sumo matches.
I think then, if not football, if not sumo, at least there's been slight, I would say, excitement when it came to the MMA. I think it's something that we should get into, as it's a rising sport that has yet to plateau.
Oh, I disagree with that. I disagree with that completely. It was rising for years, Don.
Sure.
For years.
Yeah.
And it's already, I think, entrenched as a favorite pastime for Americans and non-Americans alike all over the world. I think people really like MMA, and there's enough. I would say it's plateaued for the most part.
No, it's still growing.
You don't think so?
No, it's still growing. I think there's definitely some excitement to it across all avenues, not just the UFC, but Bellator and all these smaller promotion teams that do fights. We have yet to dabble in the other promoter events. Right, we've only been focusing on UFC, but there's a lot out there still that we could dabble in. It's just that UFC
Perhaps you're right. Perhaps you're right. But look, man, my favorite organization was Pride Fighting Championships.
You would, yeah, because you got that pride in you, man.
I got the pride, not the rainbow pride that Don is alluding to, but I definitely got the pride. Don is actually a very interesting character because although he tends to vote a certain way, he actually supports all people, and I respect that about him immensely. Yeah. I don't have the courage to vote Republican and support all Pride people. I just support Pride people, but not the Republican side. But Don can do both. He is a multitasker. And I feel sorry for him that his candidate of choice is not doing too well, and it looks like he's.
God damn it, Kanye! Why didn't you get more than 0.2%? God damn it!
And let's not waste further time. Let's get right into that.
Yeah, well, nowhere else to go.
Nowhere else to go. I kind of dug myself a hole, and you jumped right in with me. So Kanye West, man, I know we did a couple of podcasts, and very highly rated podcasts at that.
Oh, really?
Where we talked about
double digit views.
Oh yeah, like halfway to triple digit, if you know what I mean.
Oh,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So Kanye, man, I mean, from the beginning, I think what I told you was he wasn't a serious candidate.
sure.
You know, I knew that this was some kind of publicity stunt, maybe tied to an album release or clothing line promotion, whatever it may
Sure.
be. And although it's unclear if that was even the case, it just seemed like a rather half-hearted effort. His name wasn't even officially on the ballot for most states, and Don and I, we both know, at least in California, he was the vice presidential choice for some leading candidate called, I think it was like Rocky de la Fuente La Guerra or
Strong
whatever.
name. Strong name. He deserves a shout out
Strong
in our
name,
future chat.
strong name. Yeah, and you know, quite frankly, that name recognition alone for the vice presidential candidate probably got him at least a couple thousand votes, if not more, in California. I haven't checked the exact numbers. Maybe Don has. But it was just kind of wild to me to see it happen yesterday because obviously I'm on Google. I'm checking out the election results. I go to a state like Kentucky, which was one of the first states to report actual numbers for their districts. And, you know, I see Trump up there, of course. I see Biden up there. Scroll down a bit after I think the Joe Jurgensen or whatever, the libertarian candidate. Who do I see ranked fourth? Clocking in at a whopping 0.2%. None other than Kanye West. And with his happy looking smile. Like, it's rare to see Kanye smile in general. But to see a picture of him smiling, finishing fourth, or probably even fifth by now, I thought it was kind of entertaining. I know he voted because I think it was you or somebody else, a friend of mine maybe, shared the image of Twitter where he just kind of posted like, oh, you know, I voted. He's in the blue hoodie with like the I voted sticker and whatnot. And I thought, you know, what do we take away from this? We already think highly of Kanye's music and his creativity, his artistic ability. Is this just perhaps a failed attempt at another lane, another avenue? Or was this just a whole mess and it just should never have happened? I'm leaning more toward the latter. But what do you think, man? What do you think about this whole Kanye presidency?
I think he has a heart of gold and really believes that he was, asked by God to do what he did. I think he truly believes that what he wants to do is the right thing to do, as all of us tend to do. And he just wasn't educated enough to know what ropes he had to jump through or jump over and fight over and pull and push and blah 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 blah. I think that worst case scenario, he knew that the notion of all press is good press would help his career and his brand recognition. And I think it's his way of, or at least his maybe agent's or manager's way of saying, oh, he'll get in a couple camera shots, he'll make headlines here and there, and it'll seek a different sort of relevance in diversifying his brand than what's already occurring. Do I think he should have made the attempt to run for president? Probably not. I think a lot of us took it as a joke, and some of us did, not 0.2% of some state.
No, I think they did too. Honestly, they knew what they were doing. They knew they were spoiling their ballots.
Sure. But if I was in his shoes and I had enough pull of a brand to at least make a little tiny wave in the news by doing this, I probably would have done it myself. Being as fearless as he is, and comfortable with himself, why not? It's a waste of time for everyone else, but for his own gain, even if he's made more enemies, he's made more people look at him. So good for him.
Get that take. I get that all publicity, good or bad, is
For his case.
for his
Specifically
case
yeah.
is welcome. I
Yeah.
get that, but for me, and this is kind of a general principle, I don't like it when people half-ass something that should be taken seriously.
And I don't think he did half-ass it. I think he went in well-intentioned, just not knowing the rules. Because if you read maybe a month or two back, he tried going everywhere he could. He got a team of lawyers across the nation to try to get him on the ballot. Whether or not it was just for his own fame and recognition, or if he was trying to actually just get on the ballot as soon as he could and in the right means, shows that he really wanted it. He was really trying it. He wasn't... I mean, granted, it could be taken either way, right? He could just be like, I have all this money to spend. What's $1 million here for this state to hire a team of lawyers to try to, sneasel my way in. But at the same time, I think, well, that's $1 million, at least to me. That's worthwhile money. That he spent knowing that it was going towards a cause that would ultimately bring him what he believed in. I don't know.
Okay, here's where I think you're wrong. But I agree with a lot of what you're saying, but you're also 99% wrong.
A lot
I
is 1%.
Yeah, a lot is 1%. For your standards, it's 1%. It's more than what
Bulking
Kanye
season.
pulls in Kentucky.
Bulking season.
Every season. There you go. Here's what I think, though, man. I disagree with the premise that he really, really wanted it, and he really tried and went for all these states. Because here's the thing. I say it's half-assing because if he was really serious about this, he should have known the deadlines to put his name on the ballot.
Sure.
And it's inexcusable. And I mean that. If you are a serious candidate, it's inexcusable to miss the deadline for any state. For any state. And think about it this way. This kind of decision shouldn't be something that happens on July 4th of the election year.
Sure.
Okay? If we look back at Kanye's Twitter feed, which is probably the most accurate depiction of his moods and what he's thinking and what's going on in his life,
Sure.
July 4th, pretty much it was some, celebration probably with his family. He was feeling really good, and he was like, you know what? I should be president. I'm feeling so good. I can run Yeezy. I can run Yeezy Sound. I can do all this and that. I might as well be president. If Trump can do it, my buddy Trump can do it, I can do it too. And it was one of those things where Kim should have been like, no, Kanye, put the phone down. No. Just come to bed. No. That's really what it should have been. But it just spiraled into something that was completely unnecessary. And that's the one word I'd use to describe this birthday party celebration.
Which is a solid name, by the way.
It was a great name. It was a great name. I could totally see myself. See, if Kanye took this seriously and actually was campaigning, you know what I mean? Actually went not just to one rally or whatever that was and cried his eyes out and talked about his kids and Kim like some kind of maniac. If he didn't do that and he actually went on different rallies, maybe like how Trump did, I think I'd be behind that. I think I'd be very interested at least to see what he would say, to see what he would do. And I would argue that he would probably get really good ratings, better than Biden, that's for sure. Everybody gets better ratings than Biden. SoCal DNA, YouTube views are probably better than Biden's town hall. But I think it's just a shame that he didn't take it as seriously as I expected or as I wanted him to do.
Yeah, no, and I get where you're coming from. Yeah. I think, again, tomato. I think with that amount of money, you're probably right, because he has money to give or use or throw away. So he may have just been doing it, just half-assing it, thinking that money could have solved whatever, or could have built any bridges that were, already broken. But I don't know. Would you? Well, you say you'd take him seriously. You mean you'd at least pay more attention? Doesn't mean you'd vote for him, right?
No, I wouldn't go as far as to say I'd vote for any candidate from the birthday party. I mean, they just started this year.
What happens if he runs for governor of California?
Oh, I would encourage that, actually. I would advocate him to run for a lower office. I think winning something like that, it doesn't even have to be California. I think Wyoming even, right? just go ahead and make Wyoming your establishment,
Sure.
not just for recording music, but for actually having policy and finding out new ways to create society over there, whatever the hell that he's doing.
Who creates
Create
society?
society. Well, I say create society because, as you know,
Oh,
one of the many
yeah.
things that Kanye is into, he's not just about music and fashion. He wants to build communities over there. He wants to build like a new way of living, a new lifestyle where you work, play, and eat and do everything like all in this hobbit-like structure, which apparently you can skateboard in and over. So
Oh, okay.
figure out how that works.
Hey, you
Um,
know
it's just I know there's been a track record of successful celebrities who get lower office, not the president, but just lower office. The most notable one you mentioned, California, is the governor, right? Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was probably very, very well known at the time as Terminator and all the other movies that he's part of. Jingle All the Way, which is actually what I remember him for. I don't know if you recall that film with Sinbad and Arnold Schwarzenegger, where they were both trying to be Santa Claus or something. I forget exactly, but that was a movie I remember Arnold for. In any case, if he can do it, I'm sure Kanye could do that in almost any state. At least be competitive. Would I vote for him as a president if he took it seriously? No, but yes, I would pay more attention. And I told you already that as much of a Kanye West fan as I've been over the past few years, I actually found myself not wanting to follow Kanye as much this year after he kind of flaked out on the whole birthday party presidential race thing. I don't even check his Twitter. I don't even care if he tweets something new. And frankly, I'm building up a backlog of his music that I've yet to get to. I have yet to listen to Jesus is King. I have yet to listen to any of the other tracks that he's been on. Not even I Love It with Little Pump. So you can tell my uh, my admiration for Kanye has dwindled a bit. My interest in his day-to-day activities has definitely dwindled. But it is what it is. He tried something, he went for it. He has money, like you said, and he failed. Um, but the candidates that are still in play, those are the ones that I think we should really spend some time talking about. Of course, we're talking about the incumbent Donald J. Trump, and of course Joe Biden.
Yeah, and I think it'd be wise if I load up the 280 to win website.
270 to win.
270.
Right?
Sorry.
If you're on 280 to win, you're probably on the wrong side, my friend.
I've been drinking, my man. I've been drinking, so
all good, all good, as is usually the case. It's all good.
Okay. Check that out. It's showing 279 and 163. I don't think that's it. Let's go ahead and look at president really quick.
Hey, how about instead of this 280 to win, let's go to Google. Let's just go to the Google and type in election results, because that's what I'm looking at, and you can see the entire electoral college map. And the cool thing is we can actually cycle through the president, the Senate,
perfect.
and the House races. Yeah. It's really cool. So I don't know what you're showing, Don, to the
264. 264 to 214.
Got it. So this is the current status as of 9:05 p.m. Western time, Pacific time, and clearly Biden is in the pole position here. The only way that Trump can win here is if he just runs the floor. If he runs the table, he wins every single remaining state that hasn't been declared. But that's rather difficult, primarily because Nevada, granted, only 75% reporting. Biden's holding a lead right now.
He's
at 49. Yeah, 49.3% to Trump's 48.7, a delta of about, we can say, 8,000, like Don said. 6 electoral votes. If Biden can claim those 6 votes, it is game over. He hits exactly 270, precisely the number needed to win the presidency. And Trump, he can probably get Alaska for 3, Pennsylvania for 20, North Carolina for 15, Georgia for 16, but he will not come close to 270 without getting Nevada. So it is a dire situation for Trump fans and voters like Don, but I think it is a joyous time. It is a joyous time for everyone else.
Dick.
There were some surprises in these results, though. I know Don was watching different feeds, as was I yesterday. And one thing that Major Garrett, CBS News correspondent from Channel 2, he mentioned that, I know the Trump supporters are going to say this. The polls were wrong again. We thought that we had made the right corrections, the right adjustments, excuse me, from 2016.
Sure.
But ultimately, what we found was it's very difficult to accurately portray the number of people who are likely to vote for Trump. It seems like more than likely what's happening is maybe they're just not honest to the pollsters. Maybe
Just
they
like how you are
publicly.
with our fans.
I am always honest. I think there is no person more honest in this podcast than me.
Well, that's
You
probably
can,
true, actually.
that's probably true when you really look at the numbers, the 1 and the 2, and the 2 and the 1, however way you flip it, But it's just it's impressive to me that the system can still be improved, right? I
Sure.
think, you would think that for a two-party system that we have, electoral college, more or less the polls are very refined and they're able to really capture the essence of the election, the essence of what the people want. But with a maverick like Donald Trump that has very different tendencies, doesn't really go by the rules ever, it seems like the people who support him don't go by the rules either,
Sure.
and results in all these polls showing Biden with huge leads all over like Pennsylvania and North Carolina and other states. But turns out Trump is doing just fine. At least he's more competitive in these results than I expected him to be. I think you and I were talking last time. I thought Biden would blow this guy out, like over 300 for sure. But did you ever imagine, Dom, that it would be this close?
I didn't. I didn't. It's quite scary to know that we're waiting on 4 states, and each one of them is crucial at this point. It's just odd to me also, or it's actually good now, that right now the popular vote is coinciding with the electoral vote, which is nice to see that for once it's actually working out when it comes to the system of it. I don't know, man. Time will tell. Who knows if these percentages are even legitimate? And the swing of Nevada is going to be crazy because we still have 25%, right? So we still have 250K, a little over 250K that still need to be reported. It's still a toss-up. It's leaning blue or light blue, but that's pretty much meaningless right now, I would say.
No, I wouldn't say that. I think the way I look at this.
Bet.
Okay.
No, I don't want to bet. No, I'm good.
Like a chihuahua that barks loud and whimpers away.
Falcon season, every season. I'm just waiting for my time.
Your time is now, my friend. Your time is now. But yeah, no, this was. I gotta say, I had a lot of fun, just kind of keeping up with this. I was telling Don, I think even earlier in the day, before any results were out, like at 11, 12, I was refreshing Google every 30 minutes just to see. And as soon as I saw Kentucky and perhaps Illinois and some of the other states on the East Coast report even a few votes, I was like, yeah, this is fun. This is exciting. This is really cool. And now that it's almost over, I now transition into, oh shit, now what does this mean long term? Because after the fun is over, after the results are out,
Yeah.
Trump is still president.
Yeah.
Trump is still going to be president for at least a couple more months.
Yeah.
And he's going to take his time to make sure that he's lawyered up. He's, hoping to take this to the Supreme Court. And the whole idea now, if I understand correctly, he wants to make sure that the ballots that are received after the polls closed by mail are not counted. I think that's the goal. Correct me if I'm mistaken, Don, but I think that's what he's trying to basically hash out through the lower courts first, and then eventually, if it escalates to the Supreme Court, to make sure that even if ballots are postmarked on election day or before, if they are supposed to be counted later on,
Yeah.
don't do that. Like, just don't do it at all. Cut it off.
Yeah.
Um,
And I
and I
think
know, Don. Go
the
ahead,
most
go ahead.
current talks where Donald Trump's kind of narrowed down his list of states by which he wants to attack, basically. So he's looking at Arizona, right? Because that's now a flipped state, right? It used to vote Republican, now it's voting Democrat, for what we know now. And other states like Michigan, he's kind of targeting, or I believe his team is targeting, these particular states that have flipped in order to try to not count all mail-in ballots, which is a feat in and of itself. Depending on who you talk to, that is illegal to say, like, oh, that vote shouldn't count for whatever reason. But to me, it pisses me off, dude. I was talking to my wife about this earlier. I'm like, dude, he's still president. Doesn't the president still need to be doing shit for the country right now rather than trying to, lawyer up for the next 4 years? Like, there could have been some critical shit that happened today that he probably should have had a meeting about, but instead he was on the phone calling other Republican governors saying, what the fuck happened? Like, that frustrates the hell out of me, knowing that. I don't know if you put it into that perspective.
I don't, because I recognize the times that we're in. I mean, it is COVID season, right?
Okay.
So it's not like Trump is expected to go to different countries and talk to them. It's not like Trump is expected to really travel too much, even within the U.S. He has been for the rallies, for the campaigning, but
yeah.
But the fact is, traditionally speaking, around this time of year, it's just commonly known that you're campaigning.
Sure.
And to me, I think Trump's contribution to the litigation effort is rather minimal. More than likely, he has a dedicated staff of people who are handling this, and Trump is just being the mouthpiece, the loudspeaker that he usually is. So I don't really buy into the fact that so much of his time that he would spend on other things is now going to this,
like
because
Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, he's always on Twitter. It's not like he's doing too many new things, if you're perfectly honest, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, this litigation is going to happen. He's going to talk about it every day, sure. But he's still going to handle other business. I'm sure he's going to, work on, where I hope, Congress and Trump, they can work on the second stimulus package, because there's a lot of people out there who are hurting, and they've been waiting on Congress to break the gridlock and come to a decision. And speaking of which, we can actually switch over from the President tab on Google to the Senate tab. And this is very interesting to me because, as you know, in the Senate, we have 100 total seats, 2 from every state. And before the election, there was a Republican majority, correct me if I'm mistaken, of 1, right? 51 for the Republicans, right? And Mitch McConnell being the majority leader there. And now it looks like it's very close. There's a couple of seats, or is it completely? No. There's 4 seats that haven't been officially called out of the 35 total that were up for election this particular year. And currently, the Republican Party has 48 to the Democrats 46. They appear to have, Democrats appear to have gained 1 seat. I'm looking at the gain-loss column there, but it's not a net gain yet. I think after all the results come in, we'll understand if in total they have actually gained a seat and the Republicans have lost one, meaning the House or the Senate is flipped. But this one is probably, to me, very interesting, because if the Democrats can win the Senate, and they've already retained the House, although they lost a few seats there, that's pretty powerful, right? I mean, for the Democrats to completely control Congress, I would imagine before the end of the year, they'd be able to, get that stimulus package, the second one, to go through.
Among other things, yeah.
Among other things. So how do you feel about the Senate, man? What's your prediction? I know we haven't talked about the Senate, but are you feeling like the Republicans will maintain control ultimately, or it might flip blue?
I'm trying to see what states are left. Like, we got Georgia, which is most likely going to go red. North Carolina, which is trending red. What other states? Can you help me identify?
So,
Alaska?
Yeah, I think I think North Carolina looks like Republicans are leading.
Yeah, leading 93% left, so 7%, about 200K. So there's still a chance that the blue can come out.
And so, can you explain one thing? For Georgia, it says a runoff election will be scheduled. What is a runoff election?
Yeah, so it's pretty much where the votes were a little bit more scattered than they'd like, and there wasn't a clear-cut winner. So what they're doing usually is they take the top two and do a runoff on that, where they'll say, okay, what about these guys? So it's almost like a tournament system, I would say, but don't quote me on that.
Oh, I understand. Okay, so expanding that, I see that for Georgia, there's three people basically: Raphael Warnock, Democratic Party; Kelly Loeffler, Don's Party; and Doug Collins, also Don's Party.
Damn it!
So that's fascinating to me because it seems like there's two Republican candidates that are kind of close in the vote percentage, and because of that, I understand completely what Don is saying. They're gonna say bye-bye Doug Collins. You can go back to coaching the 76ers. And they're going to go with Raphael Warnock and Kelly Loeffler, one from the Democratic Party, one from the Republican. And in a runoff election, though, are they going to cause another vote? Like, are they going to force people to really?
It'll be on another vote. Yeah, so it's pretty much almost like on hold. So I think in about a month or two. Let me see, it's November, so I wouldn't be surprised if they do it in early December. But the thing is, some states have 2 voting days instead of just 1. So it's odd. I'd look up Georgia, but nobody wants to see that. But,
all good. So to me, I mean, see if my analysis is right here. To me, if Doug Collins is forced to drop out of this race, you're basically leaving just one Republican in there. And wouldn't you expect that the voters for Doug Collins, if they're so inclined to vote again, they would more than likely go for the remaining Republican choice rather than the Democrat?
Most likely.
So if that's the case, then I think, for me at least, with my very rudimentary analysis, it's a foregone conclusion that Kelly Loeffler and henceforth the Republican Party will win the state of Georgia. So ultimately, we don't have
I don't know if you're looking at this special election. I don't even know how to read this. What's the difference between special election and regular election?
I don't know. Maybe. but where are you even seeing the special and regular?
All right, so if you click on the state of Georgia for the U.S. Senate, it'll take you to a new, almost like a refresh tab. Now, it should say on the top Georgia as a click down, right, as a state. So it says 2020 U.S. election results live, updated 9/19.
Yeah.
And then you see the state Georgia as one of the tabs, and you got President, U.S. Senate.
Yeah.
Click on U.S. Senate, and then you can open up the 2 tabs where there's the regular election drop down, and then the special election drop down.
Yeah. I wish I could tell you, my friend. I wish I could tell you. Now, my one guess would be, and this is probably wrong, what if both senators from Georgia are up for re-election? Could that be a thing? Like maybe the regular election is where, David Perdue, he's winning by a large percentage. Not winning by a large percentage, but it's not runoff style where there's 3 candidates that have scattered voting. So they count it as regular. They count the second one as special because of the reason you mentioned. Warnock, Loeffler, and Collins all kind of have 20 to 32% of the vote. So maybe that's why they call it regular and special. Maybe.
I don't know.
Let's move on. In any case, moving on to the House. Moving on to the U.S. House. Okay, so the House, as I mentioned before, although
it's a lot closer than I thought.
It is closer, and credit goes to the Republican Party here because they managed to gain 6 seats.
They snatched 6, yeah.
And the funny thing is, they even snatched one from the other parties. I don't know who the other parties are. Probably Libertarian or something. I don't know. But they probably just had the 1 seat, and it got snatched away, which is really sad. But in any case,
dude, you know what I just noticed too? Alaska doesn't have any seats.
Wow, because they're so small, right?
I guess. I'm trying to see. I mean.
Oh, unless maybe they're not declared yet. Like they haven't actually, officially announced whether Alaska's going one way or the other, or no, not that.
Let me Google that. That's worth googling. Does
That is
Alaska
worth googling. Please, by all
any
means.
seats in the house.
They must.
House.
They must.
How many
right?
seats? House seats. 40 representatives.
Well, fuck, that's a lot.
Because Alaska, 7 states have 1 representative. 7 states. Oh, all right, never mind. This was bad Google. Bad Google. Never mind. Let's
Bad Google. Just there's a lot of fake news out there. A lot of fake news out there. So clearly, Democrats will retain the House, but they have lost 6 seats, which doesn't really bode well for them moving forward. I think. Correct. Sorry, 5 seats. There you are. And the last thing we can check here is actually the ballot measures, and for the state we care about the most, California.
And this is, I think, something that we could talk about a little bit better.
Well, maybe you can, because I just voted based off of a blurb for each one. Now I'm actually curious to learn a little bit. I'm
Sure.
going to put my student hat on, and you're going to be the professor with your glasses, even though you don't wear glasses.
Not
yet.
glasses.
Not yet.
2020.
2020. There
Bad
you
year.
go.
Bad year, but
Bad year.
2020
Well, great year for some, bad year for most. Okay, so can you explain to me the pros and cons of Prop 22, the one about
22.
app-based drivers as contractors, not employees?
Sure. So the main thing is, all right, depending on how you say it, I'm going to try to stay neutral about it, right? But I will be swayed because I have certain opinions that I may or may not be entitled to, but I'm going to believe I am. But Prop 22 has to deal mainly with these kind of gig-focused apps. Main ones being Uber, Lyft, Postmates, things like that, where anyone, so long as you have a vehicle or you have the ability to rent a vehicle that would work with the platform, can basically sign up for. It's a soft contract where you pick your own hours. As of this year, you pick your own hours and you work your own hours, and the app or the company will pay you a certain amount for the services you render under their platform. Now, Prop 22 is one of the propositions set where they didn't know how to categorize the employees or contracted employees or contractors, because these people kind of signed up out of their free will, and they didn't know if the company should be mandated to provide certain employee benefits to them, given the fluidity of this employment. So Prop 22 was, hey, should we keep them as they are, which are contractors, where companies aren't going to be liable to provide full-time employee benefits such as healthcare? Or are we going to say, no, these people that work for these companies are employees, not contractors. Thus, the companies are liable to provide full-time benefits to those that meet the criteria of working a full-time job, which many of these drivers, for example, in Uber and Lyft do, right? They do this full-time. They drive almost 10 hours a day, if that every day, as taxi drivers would. So that's the essence of it, if it's in its most basic explanation. Sixth grade level, if I could.
And that was beautiful. That was a very great explanation. I appreciate that. My follow-up question will be to ask you from the customer's perspective, okay? Mm-hmm. Not the Uber driver or Lyft driver's perspective, but from the customer's perspective.
Yep.
Which one is more beneficial?
From the customer perspective, if we're looking overall at cost and speed, I would say it is more beneficial to vote yes.
Okay. And now, if we look at it, and this is probably debatable as well, from the driver's perspective, which one do you think is more beneficial?
Either or. This one, it depends on the driver. If it's truly a gig worker, like a college student who is working this as his or her part-time job to, get money for those adios motherfuckers at the club that he's going to this weekend, then, it makes sense to say yes and keep that fluidity in job categorization. However, for those that have lost their jobs due to the pandemic and are simply doing this because this is the only option available to them, they'll see it as their full-time job, and their old full-time jobs provided the benefits, which, as you know, as a hard-working full-time employee at your company, are really expensive to pay for without those employee subsidies that they offer, right? Like if we had to pay health insurance out of pocket ourselves, we'd be spending maybe $1,000 to $2,000 every month, for health, vision, dental.
Sure.
As a contractor, you don't get that subsidy from the employee or employer. If they were employees, then they would, or the companies would be liable to provide that for them in some way, shape, or form, or opt out and find a different means of doing it. So it depends from the driver's perspective. Now, from the company's perspective, it makes sense to say yes because it saves them money, obviously, because they don't have to provide these benefits. And on top of that, they don't have to have a management sort of structure, and they don't have to provide certain compensation packages for employees. There's a certain fluidity if you have contractors to just say, nope, you can't drive with us anymore, or nope, you can't do that anymore, or nope, you don't represent us anymore. Whereas employees, there's a couple more hoops you'd have to go through.
So one thing that I'm getting from all this, these are all part of the new gig economy, and I kind of count this along with like the Airbnbs of the world.
Who's going public soon, by the way? Something to look out for.
Oh, they're having an IPO soon. Yeah,
they're in talks, I think, of setting it up.
Ah, interesting. Well, I'll have to bookmark that one for sure. But I just wonder. I think gig economies by nature work better when they're more, contractual in this way, where it's like these transactional. Really, it's not like burdened with a lot of overhead.
Sure.
And other people may argue that gig economies only exist because there's some kind of inefficiency.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just the way to bridge the gap, so to speak. It's not perfect. It's the way to bridge the gap. I can tell you, I voted yes on 22. So basically to keep them in the current status, to keep them as contractors, primarily because I thought, the other way, at least from a customer's perspective as a consumer, it would be probably more expensive. I think Uber rides, everything would be more expensive.
Yeah, it would be more expensive, and it would be, instead of your 5-minute waits, they'd probably shoot up to 10 to 20 minutes, just because the number of drivers out there would be limited.
Right. And at that point, you pretty much have to think, oh, should I call an Uber or should I just call a taxi? Because they may be more comparable now.
Sure.
Right? And so for me, I also recognize the other point you made about the employees themselves. I know people that drive Uber and drove Uber in the past, and they like having it be something very flexible and just easy to jump on whenever they have a little bit of time.
Yeah. Make a couple bucks here and there, take a couple rides. You're driving to San Diego anyways, why not pick up the people that are on the way? Why not do something like that? And then I also know the other side of the coin where some people depend on this as their full-time income, and they need that offset. Because, quite frankly, to live here in California, it's quite expensive. So, the fraction or the percentage take home of the overall ride cost is so minimal that it's not cutting it for them. So, they may need a little bit of help, or that they would only receive as an employee. So, it kind of depends, man.
You're right. It does depend. And I'm glad you mentioned the rides, right? Because sometimes I imagine, what if we didn't have to just ride in vehicles on the asphalt? What if we could actually travel through space?
Oh.
Huh?
Oh.
And what if we could actually become cowboys in space?
Oh.
And that's right.
Hold on, I think I got the perfect track for this. Hold on, let's go ahead.
You got something? How about you roll it out?
All right, hold on, let's see.
Are we doomed to a cold and heartless future in which computer says yes, computer says no, with the grim finality of an emperor in the arena?
In the arena. You can go ahead and introduce the segment.
And first of all, shout out to our guy, Boris Johnson, for that great intro. Great intro to this new segment. We are doing a new segment that's going to be reoccurring. Essentially,
Fingers
yeah, I know. Fingers crossed, because we haven't been great on all of our reoccurring segments. But this one in particular, Don and I are both excited about. This one, of course, is about Cowboy Bebop, an anime that, much to the probably delight of Don and other people who have been
So
part of this
excited.
podcast before, an anime that came out in the 90s, late 90s. This one was very cutting edge at the time, very hip. People loved it when it came out. It got rave reviews, and over the years, it kind of developed a cult following even beyond that. And people, they still have significant interest in it today. And so, maybe a couple months ago, I was just reading the news as I usually do, and I discovered that Netflix is making a live action adaptation of the Cowboy Bebop anime. And so that triggered something that sparked an interest in me. I was like, there was a time when I was really into the show. I didn't watch all of it. I never finished it, but I watched several episodes, and I really, really liked it. And I thought to myself, how come I never finished it? It's like so many things on the A's queue, it never got finished, and it just kept going to the end of the queue over and over again. And I was like, you know what? With the NBA season winding down, with the political season in the U.S., UK not so much, but in the U.S. winding down, I I know that I would have a little bit more bandwidth, perhaps, for some entertainment, if you will. And of course, I asked the D, and the D was happy to oblige, and that's why we are bringing you our feedback, our thoughts, our overall analysis of the show Cowboy Bebop. And of course, to start off, we are going with episode 1 for today. Episode 1 called Asteroid Blues, which is the solid name, great name actually, and it captures the vibe, I think, of the show very well. To kind of set it up for the audience, Cowboy Bebop, and only looking at the first episode, I don't want to talk about it as if I know what's going to happen later. So from the first episode, what you really see is this duo, right? You have the guy who's the pilot of the ship. His name is Jet. And you have this, younger, very athletic, cool-looking guy, very tall, called Spike. And Spike and Jet, they're essentially bounty hunters aboard a ship called the Bebop. And they go from galaxy to galaxy, planet to planet, hunting down different, criminals. And one in particular that they find is worth like 2 million fictional credits. 2.5. And of course they're desperate. You know why? Don, tell them what kind of food they're eating on the Bebop.
Yo, I gotta say, I gotta come up with my own recipes. I might get some inspiration from Cowboy Bebop. It might be my Cowboy Bebop year for 2021.
Hey, I like it.
But they were eating none other than, what was it? Green bell peppers and beef? Bell peppers and beef.
Bell peppers and beef. That's right. Yeah. And it was one of those things that really stood out to me because, what better way to introduce and to discuss the financial situation of the main characters than to introduce, hey, what's for dinner? Oh, bell peppers and beef. Spike sits down with a bowl of this food, this concoction that the pilot Jet made. He looks down and kind of grimaces because, yeah, there's bell peppers in there, but no beef at all. And he kind of throws a fit. He gets kind of crazy about it. And then you realize after Jet explains, well, all the money from the last hit went to repairing the ship, paying for the police officers that you crashed into, all the kind of crap that you did. And so you can kind of see, all right, so Jet is the more responsible one, it looks like. He's kind of maintaining everything. And
Is
Jet,
he, though? Is he? I mean, dude's missing an arm.
And that's interesting. When you look at Jet, he does look kind of like a humanoid, so to speak. He's a little robotic, right? He has something on his face as well that looks metally.
Makes him
I don't
look
know exactly.
kind of like Cyborg from
Cyborg is the word I'm looking for. There you go. Shout out to another show right there that I'll never watch. And so yeah, and that's Jet's character for now. And then you look at Spike. Spike looks like he has a different way of doing things. He kind of goes by the beat of his own drum. Uh, he is very much into practicing some kind of martial arts. He seems to be very good at you know, kickboxing or whatever it is, and he showcases that later on in the show. But I like that scene because it really shows you who they are very quickly and explains how desperate they are for money.
Mm-hmm.
And so they dive right into it. They actually go to Tahiti, out of all places. Oh no, not Tahiti. Sorry, Tijuana. TJ.
Close.
They go to Tijuana. Close. You know, there's a T in there. There's a T in there. Maybe they speak the same language. I'm not quite sure. Probably not. Getting a little borderline racist there.
Yeah,
But in any case, so they go to TJ. They go to TJ, and they're essentially looking for this guy. I think his name is Asimov Solan-san.
Yeah, Asimov.
And he's down there with a very beautiful young lady, and you see them walk into a bar, and the young lady looks like she's pregnant, and I'm like, oh wow, okay, maybe they're a family, maybe they're a couple or something. But then something looks a little off, because as soon as she sits down to the bar, right, they order drinks and everything, and he orders like a Bloody Mary or something, and I think the girl, she orders some alcoholic drink, and the bartender looks at her kind of suspiciously, because wait a second, if she's pregnant, she wouldn't be drinking. And so from that point forward, oh, okay, something's up. Maybe she's part of it, right? Maybe she's part of the whole crime syndicate. And Don, you have more familiar with drugs than I do. What kind of drug would you say this guy was pushing? What kind of pusher was he?
It was an upper. I'd say it is a super crack cocaine.
Sir,
so pure,
yes, sir.
So pure. It forgoes the color white. It says, you know what? We just need one color in the spectrum. We don't need all of them in white. Just one. So they pick red. I forget the name of it. What do they call it?
Red Eye. I think it's called Red Eye. Yeah. Great name. And you actually see him take it, and he kind of sprays it on his eyeball. Yeah. And he just goes like, I don't know what to describe it as. He goes insane.
He goes almost like to a berserk level, almost like a Super Saiyan.
Yeah, like a Super Saiyan for sure. And he was like reacting quicker to things too. I think he was caught up in that gunfight, but the people who were trying to shoot at him, either they couldn't shoot him, or he just looked so deranged and crazy that they were afraid of him. I couldn't quite make out which one it was, but clearly powerful drug, and he was pushing it. They run into Spike. They run into more trouble along the way, and Spike quickly figures out what's going on. He's a sharp guy. He's so sharp that he steals one vial of this Red Eye off of the Asimov character. So he brings it back to Jet, and they kind of like talk about him, like, oh, okay, so you met him, blah blah blah, we got to do this, we got to do that. One thing after another leads to this giant chase. They just go through the galaxy or the planet, whatever the hell they're on, the TJ, the Tijuana, the Tahiti, everything. They cover all this area. Sure. And this was beautiful to me. Like, I don't know how you reacted when you saw that chase with the music, and we haven't even talked about the music, but man, I just gotta say with those two speed cruisers just kind of running along, it was almost poetry in motion to me. And I know that phrase is like cliche and it's used often, but I just loved how the music complemented the scene, and it was reaching a climax as they went into space. And Asimov saw, along with his girl, oh, there's a police blockade, there's no way they can survive, they can't get through. And the girl knew that, oh, she's never going to make it to Mars. And the sadness in her eyes, and then all of a sudden, boom, right? She just like fires the bullet, kills Asimov, and the police just shatter, just kind of, blow up the ship with a rain of bullets. And Spike is just sitting there in his own ship, watching in shock and disbelief and just disappointment. That to me was just so amazing, like to capture that sentiment, that emotion in that one scene. I thought it was perfect, man. Just really good.
Yeah. No, and it could be seen as many things, man. I haven't watched the series, so I may be playing devil's advocate, that may be pointing in the right direction. But,
sure.
What if he was almost in love with the girl?
Yeah.
That's why he was sad, because he knew, oh, dude, he seemed like he had that kind of Playboy-esque vibe. But deep down inside, he probably was like a hopeless romantic
lover.
Yeah, something like that, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh shit, like I was vibing with that girl when, you know, during some of the scenes here and there, you know, just playing hard to get or whatever.
Sure.
Or, you know, what if he was just more pissed off or, you know, dumbfounded because he's like, shit, now I got to go back and eat some
Bell peppers.
quote beef and bell peppers.
That's right.
You know, I just wasted a day. I had to pay that damn $7K toll just to get here, and now
Oh, you remember that shit?
yeah, dude. Yeah, man. It's all in the details. The devil's in the details.
There you go.
Or it's
There
like,
you
what
go.
is he's thinking? Shit, I've been fucking up so much. I could have had the whole thing. Why did I destroy the vials when I could have just sold that instead? Or, you know, if it's just purely a financially driven sort of sadness, given what we know so far about his lifestyle. There's a lot of things. Or, you know, what if he's sad because, like, well, shit, there's cops here. Maybe he's the one that's also being hunted for whatever reason. Same time. Who knows? A lot of possibilities.
A lot of possibilities. And I think this will be something that we hopefully frequently talk about and figure out. Who is Spike? I think we know very little about him so far. He is going to be played by John Cho. Don is correct. And I suppose that's a little preview for our longtime listeners. Netflix is doing this show. I think it's coming out next year, if I recall correctly. And you know, I think it's good preparation for us.
Yeah, a little study, a little history lesson. Provide a little more context and build expectations.
That's right. That's right.
But I think overall, man, what do you think? I think this is the first, or one of the first animes that you're kind of diving deep into.
Yeah, I haven't watched animes in years, like really, really long time. And I guess since this anime holds a very special place in my heart, primarily because when I was in my formative years, this was like the coolest show. I didn't even have cable, man. I didn't even have a way to watch it.
Yeah.
But I was fortunate enough to be gifted the DVD set. And I was able to watch, I think, some of the episodes early on before I moved on to other things. And to watch it again now, I think it's really special to kind of, you know, come full circle and close the loop.
Yeah, new eyes.
Different perspective.
Exactly. Yeah, different mindset.
For sure.
Different interpretation. I'm sure before you're like, oh, cool, space cowboys. Cool.
Before, I remember distinctly not catching all of the detail.
Yeah.
Like you do so easily with the 7,000K toll. For me, it was like, oh, wow, they're talking about all this stuff, and I don't know what they're really doing, but it's so cool. Like, it's just really cool to see it.
Yeah.
Now, I think I can think deeper, like you said, and think about all the different themes and motives and really analyze it like we do for any good book, right? But we're going to save a lot of our commentary about the music and about the artistic style for future podcasts. I think it's only right that we kind of tease you guys a little bit with the pilot episode and kind of talk about our initial thoughts and, you know, what we think. But so far, Don, I would say good start. I mean, in your opinion, since you've never seen this before, did you like it as a first episode?
Yeah, no, I loved it as a first episode.
Okay.
Usually when I start a new anime series, and I think I briefly touched this when we had our guest Zan on, I usually give animes, you know, a solid 2 to 3 episodes before I commit to it or kind of give up on it.
Right.
This one already has me going at episode 1. There's a sort of Tarantino vibe that I get from it. And we were talking about this earlier, a little twang that comes with the ambiance of the soundtrack and just the way that our characters hold themselves. At least I assume these are going to be the main characters for the rest of the series. And it's very interesting because I have yet to understand the true motives Spike may have. Like, what is his end goal? Usually in anime, it's like, at least lately, it's a hero story of some sort. I don't see it that way right now. He's catching bad guys, maybe, but as a bounty hunter, I typically don't put bounty hunters in the hero spotlight. They're kind of just doing it for the bang of the buck. And it'll be interesting because It's very cowboy-esque, very rough, but in a very exciting format that is really up and free for interpretation. It's wild. It's been a while since I found an anime this intriguing, and I think that's why it's been able to withstand the test of time, where Netflix, one of the most successful companies of our day, is willing to invest millions into recapturing that essence and repackaging it to make more millions. It's going to be great.
I think so, and I'm delighted that you're down for this journey, because I think a duo riding the Bebop is much better than riding solo. So hopefully the audience is also intrigued, and maybe you guys will be going on Hulu. It's so the full season, by the way, for those that are interested, it is on Hulu, and it's also on Funimation's website, right, Don? I think that's how you watch it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there's many ways you can. It's an older show, so there's many ways you can watch this, and it's worth it. And for anybody interested, like Don, I suggest give it a shot. Maybe 1 episode, 2 episodes, 26 episodes, whatever you want to do. I think it's worthwhile. And until next time, see you later, Space Cowboy.